Hi, Aron. Good morning.
Good evening, Sparkly.
You're traveling right now, right?
It's visiting my brother here.
Hello, everybody. We've got a completely different crowd here since the AMA is 3 hours earlier than usual. So, good evening and good morning, Unicorn fam. Welcome to the Crypto Unicorns post-launch AMA number 10 with Aron Beierschmitt, Crypto Unicorn CEO and co-founder. It's an exciting week of draft proposals and rewards here at CU. We're having our AMA a little early today because Aaron's traveling, but he still wanted to make the time to talk to everybody. How's that for dedicated? I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Witty Unicorn. This is the post-launch AMA where you can ask your questions regarding anything and everything crypto unicorns. Of course, we're still continuing to take on and handle in-game issues and edge cases as long as you submit a Zendesk ticket for them on lagunagames.zendesk.com. Again, that is lagunagames.zendesk.com. Check the Zendesk Guide channel under the Knowledge Base category for more information on how to create a Zendesk ticket. Here's the moment you've all been waiting for, Aaron's Alpha Corner.
Thank you very much, Sparkly. Good morning and good evening, everyone. Let's dive in. So on the governance front, probably as everyone here knows, we have 2 draft proposals currently on the form, and each has certainly been the subject of, I would say, major discussion. Quick shout out for those interested in the custom marketplace side of things. Chris from Merkle Root will be doing an AMA I believe a few hours later today, which I'm super happy about, an AMA that I don't have to do. Generally, as a general comment, I'm super happy to see the level of engagement on both of these proposals. As a reminder, let's keep feedback constructive. The entire purpose of the draft proposals section is so the community can give feedback and our potential partners can actively iterate on their proposals. And that to me is the entire purpose of that system. And so I'm happy to see the level of discussion there, and we'll be excited to see the results of the first council vote. And then, of course, if it gets approved for snapshot vote, the results of the snapshot votes on those proposals. On the treasury management side of things, our deployments went well last week, and we are now actively producing yield on our ETH and USDC via the strategies that we outlined in a blog post a couple of weeks back. Quick note on, I guess, the data observation side. After trending slightly inflationary last week, Unim has returned to being deflationary. And that's not just in game, that's counting all the program reward programs. Sorry, still need another half a cup of coffee this morning. Customer support issue resolution update. So last week, the number of new tickets per day was down 50% from the prior week. This week, we've seen that reduced by a further 47%. Median response times on tickets has decreased another 22% from last week, and that's 60% quicker than we were getting to tickets 30 days ago. We're also resolving or solving tickets nearly twice as fast as we were 30 days ago. So again, a huge shout out to everyone on the Laguna team, as well as our mods who are helping to actively improve that process. And the community should continue to expect further improvements on that front. But the good news is less and less new issues per day, and we're resolving the issues much, much, much quicker than we were. As I've been teasing the last few of these, I continue to be very focused on the Roadshow deck. Our wonderful art director, Bo, has finally gotten some time to begin to help me take my very ugly looking deck and make it beautiful. So I'm extremely excited to present that coming up here in early August. I think it's likely going to be the week after next, as I want to make sure all of the announcements are ready and lined up to kind of maximize the impact of that deck and make sure that our lovely CGI trailer is done and ready to be kind of the capstone of that Roadshow deck. Anyway, that's it for me, Sparkly. I am ready for questions.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron. Just a quick note for anybody who's thinking of asking questions related to game issues, the friendly team over at the Mod Support channel can assist you too. As much as possible, let's make the most of this time by asking questions that only Aaron can answer. But truly, any question is okay. To accommodate everybody's questions, we have a 3 questions per person rule. We want to talk about so many things, but we have limited time. This new rule should help everyone be a bit more intentional about their questions. If something's been answered previously, you'll have to ask something else. If you like somebody's question so much and want them continued, then please hop in and finish the job. Here's the AMA mechanics. If you want to ask a question, please press the Request to Speak button. The button looks like a raised hand. You can queue up even while somebody's talking. Once we accept your request, you'll see a green bar at the top of your Discord. Click Accept to begin speaking. We'll choose people one by one so everyone has a chance to ask something. Once you're unmuted, feel free to ask your question. We also have questions from Shy and Busy Unicorns. It's on the AMA Questions channel. Take note that we prioritize spoken questions over written ones. So if you have a written question and you're not sure if it'll make the AMA, please press Request to Speak and ask it personally. If you see an interesting question on the AMA Questions channel that you want an answer to, why not step on the stage and ask the question for the person who wrote it? All right, so let's start it off with a written question. Let's go, Biddy.
Okay, this one's from SoliusJ.eth. There are concerns about a limited supply of unicorns. Is there a plan how to reduce supply? For example, aging of unicorns, sacrifice one to get level up on another? Thanks.
Yeah, we have a number of systems, some that we've announced and some that we're still ideating on. Shadow Chords is obviously going to be and is the first announced unicorn burn mechanism. So to ascend or level up a Shadow Corn, as well as the minions themselves, you're going to need soul crystals. Soul crystals are only produced from burning one of our wonderful, lovely unicorns. So that is kind of the first, just straight burn, pure deflationary mechanism. I struggle a lot with some of the ideas around like unicorns getting old, are unicorns effectively like running out of, utility or whatever, because they're kind of like these magical, super powerful creatures, and that seems a little weird. So I think a lot of the systems that you're going to see from us around unicorn burn mechanisms are going to be around things like, the soul crystal feature in Shadow Corns. We're also actively considering like what does future evolutionary tiers look like, and considering whether or not there's a possible unicorn burn mechanism in doing like second, third, fourth, fifth tier evolutions on top of the unicorns. So generally, that's on the horizon and something we're thinking about. Again, I'll point out that we have over 90% of the current supply of corns actively staked in the game, with the vast majority of them being utilized daily. So I don't think we're anywhere close to an oversupply. To a state of oversupply yet, but ultimately with a generative economy, we have to be very careful with that. And so it's a good question. It's one I've certainly answered a bunch, but it's an important one to continue to reinforce as we do have active plans for reduction of the supply of unicorn NFTs over time.
All right. Thank you so much, Aaron. Let's have another written question.
All right. I have one from GD Verse. My game experience is smooth this week. Kudos to the effort of LG team. Can you provide the data for pending tickets with stuck unicorns or lands? Is the game now smooth for everyone? I want to know that the game is now smooth and ready before shelling. See you and friends in social media. With the right marketing and smooth game, Jousting could be a big hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I did see this question in AMA questions. I mean, I kind of answered that in that the number of new tickets per day, has been it was down 51% last week from the prior week. It's down another 47%. We have 142 outstanding issues that covers all issues and cases, which is down massively from where we were, even 30 days ago. I believe the number of people like actually stuck in breeding is less than 20 at this point. And those cases, again, are getting actively resolved at a much quicker cadence. My message would be wait until this next major feature release. One of the reasons that it has been dragging out a bit has just been the number of underlying fixes that are kind of coming into place, as well as improvements to the messaging around the blockchain flows, improvement to retry logic, and additional logging that helps us better assess issues going forward. And so just looking at the very, very small number of new issues coming in per day, which are predominantly not related to breeding or EVO or hatch at this point, coupled with all of the improvements in the next release, I would target for beginning to go out and actively look to evangelize the project following the next release. I think the timing on that will be great. You also have kind of the roadshow deck in the next couple of weeks to point people at as like a really good overview of like the vision for the project, where we're headed, a lot of the exciting partnerships that we're going to be announcing on that front. And I think it'll kind of be a really solid thing for everybody to reference that should excite new community members. And then obviously, to this individual's point, like having them come in and on board to a smooth experience is key. And certainly one of the reasons that we need to get this release right. I think that's very much top of mind for all of the team, is the idea that with this next release, we want it to feel like, again, a pretty significant step function improvement kind of across the board. And that's what everybody's targeting.
I'm so excited for the next release. Oh, we have Rubik. After a couple AMAs of not being here due to time constraints, we have Rubik over at the stage. Hey!
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we
can.
can. We miss
Cool.
you.
Hey, I think I only missed one, didn't I? Anyway, maybe two. Hi everyone, and I did say I was going to have some hard-hitting questions, but I'm a bit worried that now I've oversold myself. But I guess the first one I want.
Prepared for it, man. You got to hit me hard.
Well, okay. Well, I think this one's a good one. So let's see. Polygon's announced ZK EVM this week, and claimed to be the first L2 to have ZK EVM, which is, I don't know if it's actually accurate when there's a couple others that already have it working. But anyway, I digress. What's your thoughts on this EVM overall? I've got three parts to the question. Has the team started investigating how that can be implemented in the game? And if it is a positive, what kind of timeframes?
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's important to highlight they really just kind of release code. We don't have anything tangible yet that we can test. And my understanding is production mainnet launch of this is probably early next year. I think they've targeted at the end of this year, and I'm going to add a quarter onto that just to be, kind of sane. I mean, they seem to be one of the projects kind of at the forefront of the space. Obviously, through acquisitions, they kind of bought this team from the Hermes group earlier last year. But hey, That's one way to do it. And Web 2 companies popularize the trend of buying cool tech, great projects, and obviously pointing them at their networks. And so I don't see any reason why Web 3 networks wouldn't take the same, tactic. I do think that if we really can truly get to a ZK rollup that is EVM compatible, that allows us to kind of one-to-one take our existing Solidity code and leverage it in that new environment, that's going to be kind of the future of the space, right? I mean, it gives you the security of Ethereum mainnet with fast and cheap transactions. Not necessarily as cheap as Polygon proof of stake, but potentially over time at higher and higher amounts of scale, you could get, you could cram that per transaction fee further down. We are actually actively working with the Polygon team, both their product and tech team, to evaluate this as a potential solution that we would migrate to over time. But Rubik, timing-wise, this is pretty far out. This is Q1, Q2. I don't think I would want to be the first project to kind of make that move. And I think what's still a little concerning for me is the idea that it would introduce yet another bridge. Now, technically, you could bridge from Ethereum mainnet, potentially other L2s, directly to the ZK EVM. And once we migrate our contracts there, you'd be able to, reasonably quickly set something up. But the idea of having yet another network to kind of toggle to in Polygon, on MetaMask, that's a struggle for me, because bridges, I just believe, introduce, friction, and, this space has enough kind of friction as you're trying to onboard new people into it. So that is a concern that I have generally. A thing that I've brought up with the Polygon team is the idea of leveraging some of the kind of Cosmos tech, and I'm literally blanking on it because I haven't had enough coffee, but it lets you effectively control an account on one of the side chains from your main chain. So it would allow you to effectively continue to interface with the contract on proof of stake that's really bridging to the ZK EVM, right? This could also work if we went the application-specific sidechain route, which is also available to us because we've built on Polygon. So generally, I think it's really incredible tech. It's my bet that one of these ZK EVM rollups kind of kickstarts a lot of the true scalability in the space and becomes a solution that a lot of developers likely onboard into. But we're still very early on that front, and I would say there's still this question around, would application-specific sidechain on one of their super nets where we're not managing the validators, be a potentially better option. And ultimately, I want to find a solution that's going to reduce the friction and potentially eliminate a bridge, which might require some cross-chain messaging tech. But again, Cosmos has put out some really interesting stuff there, given Polygon, started from the Cosmos SDK. It was something I brought up to that team to see if it was on their roadmap, because that would actually simplify things a lot and reduce the need for a bridge.
Cool. And so I don't want to ask another question about that one, but yeah, the impact on the player, would that be faster transaction times and things like that as well for the?
I mean, one of the it technically would. It technically would mean faster transaction times. We'd likely have to wait less confirmations than we currently do on Polygon proof of stake, because at the end of the day, you're getting rolled up onto ETH mainnet, right? So it would definitely mean faster transactions. It would potentially mean cheaper transactions. But, if you look at some of the ZK rollups today, they end up, yes, they're cheaper than Ethereum, but they're not as cheap on a per transaction basis as Polygon's proof of stake network, right? So there's a little bit of a trade-off there where the fees, might be a little bit more expensive, but we're quicker. We're not waiting so long on these blockchain transactions. But yeah, there's certainly some trade-offs. It's not a silver bullet.
Okay, cool. Second question is around the gathering card. I hinted at you that I've been thinking deeply about the the gathering cart and how it could add value to land gameplay. And you mentioned something about producing some, going to start the dialogue about getting this phase 2 of cart. I believe that's what you meant. Going, how much of that's has been thought out about the gathering cart for phase 2? Is it a set in stone thing, or is there still a lot of like design work from the very start got to go?
Yeah, the high level summary is we're looking at ways to make leveling the gathering cart matter more, particularly to the reward payout. That's one of the simplest, easiest ways we think to kind of retune that in a positive fashion. So with each level update, in addition to slots, you're also, and of course, to be clear, your rewards do scale with level. It's just incredibly subtle, and the design team's looking at that as a thing that we could refactor to help make it clear why you would want to progress that building all the way to 10 beyond just the idea of getting that third slot. So really trying to get the reward tables to kind of match the progression of the card itself. And then with the launch of quests and kind of the quest board, obviously gathering cart rewards will kind of shift, where questing is going to be very specific, like, hey, this quest with these inputs, you need a heart and, let's say, a flower corn, right? Like, this is going to get you this exact result, right? And so with quest, there'll be another kind of retuning of the gathering cart. But yeah, I would say most of this stuff is the quick and easy kind of low-hanging fruit. So I'd be curious to hear more about your ideas on the gathering cart for sure.
Cool. I'll spend the weekend putting a little document together for you then. How I think it can benefit the whole ecosystem, not just the gathering cart itself. The ideas I've got are quite large, would be more than one phase of implementation, and it would impact things like why you would breed, again, why you would be looking for buying on the marketplace to find different kind of unicorns to match with your corns to breed, and eventually hopefully get certain breeds out of that, outcomes out of those breeds. Because right now I've got like 50 corns and I've bought 2 and I've never sold one. So and that's because there's just no need whatsoever. And I know you say jousting's coming and those other racing on all that. So, but I think this could be implemented pretty quickly. And if people weren't interested in those other side games, you can make the gathering cart an actual activity that fuels the economy as well, from breeding and from a crossbreeding and buying marketplace activity, and also things like it could also increase berry usage, so consumption of berries from it as well. So anyway, I'll go into it. You can tell me to jump in the creek or take on anything out of it, or say it's great and do it, whatever you like. I'm happy to do it because I love this game. Cool. Next question is, well, it's kind of about breeding and mythic unicorns. Is there something has there been thoughts from the team about how to, it does relate to what I've said just already, but also outside of like encourage crossbreeding and looking for certain stats to try and breed with? Because I just think that's a big weakness in the economy at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Quest is going to give us a lot of flexibility. I think once we see your kind of ideas around gathering cart, obviously LG Jeff and Corbin and some of the other design team will take a look at that, provide some feedback. I think you're going to hear a lot of, oh, well, this is kind of a lot of the design ideas that we have around questing, and the idea that, going to require certain types of corns that should generate trade. Particularly if if you're overweight a certain class or really focused on a certain class, you're going to need to diversify your herd a bit to take full advantage of that feature. And now, Rubik, to be honest, I've lost my train of thought.
No worries, man. Just the jousting and that, like I played Zed Run for a little bit and I lost like 10 races, and I just quit playing. Because I just didn't know what I was looking to.
Yeah, with this next update, we're obviously getting the new parts set in, which effectively takes us to hundreds of millions of corns. We don't have to add any art probably ever, especially with the deflationary mechanisms. And so that new kind of part set opens up and kind of finalizes everything in terms of what the DNA and genes, the genes themselves kind of come out to. And so we will be finally opening up the ABI such that, game labs or really anyone can pull that data and begin to have, better details on breeds and bloodlines and, what's going to potentially lead to higher stats and all of that stuff, right? And I think that as a tee up to jousting, where obviously a certain set of stats are going to matter, pretty significantly, tees us up really nicely. And then racing will add kind of this second layer where, yes, it'll have similar stats to jousting, but they won't be identical in terms of what's going to lead to like a really good racing corn, different tracks, different track conditions and stuff. It will give us like a lot more, I think, flexibility on that front to make different stats, matter. And then obviously Mythics typically having like a higher just general starting stats, is obviously going to position them well for those loops, right? We plan to do certain things where you're going to have Mythic only tournaments, you're going to have, non-Mythic tournaments and that kind of thing, as well as open races. And that kind of event structure, I think, will give us a lot of potential avenues to making stats really matter. And then again, the ABI and opening up the data to players so you can make more better, more informed decisions, I think is the other half of that.
I think I've taken too much of your time. Thanks for having me. Just a quick note, I bred 3 mythics in 2 days. Giddy up.
Nice, dude. Damn. That's very lucky. Very lucky, sir. Thank you for coming up, Rubik. I always appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much for your time, Rebecca. That mythic luck, though, I'm kind of jealous. Next up, we have Tom M. Please come over, Tom M.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having this a couple of hours earlier as well. It definitely works a bit better for us in Australia. My question was about the workshop, and I don't know whether my Excel spreadsheet's wrong or not, but I've always struggled to try and make it cost effective to actually make anything in the workshop. I'm just wondering, are many people using the workshop? Can you see those numbers on the back end? And whether it's possible to actually make it work so that it's effective and you can actually make a yield out of it. I keep getting negative yields each time I put the numbers in my spreadsheet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we definitely, we absolutely track the data on the number of like crafting events and assigned unicorns on a daily basis. And so we do and are seeing less workshop utilization than we would like. And so this is actually part of the ongoing effort to kind of retune things. And I think the idea is that we're probably going to tighten what the gathering, we're probably going to simplify the loot table as far as gathering is concerned, such that certain items and assets you're going to basically have to craft in the workshop itself. And that should be a first step towards increasing the utilization of the workshop itself, and ensuring that people producing those higher level, more complex and specialized items are not competing with gathering cart rewards. And so I think with the next tuning update, which will go live with this next release, you're going to see a reshaping of what you're getting out of each building. And that is very much designed, Tom, to the kind of what you're bringing forward here, which is, hey, the workshop's a bit slow and competing with these other, particularly the gathering cart right now. So
yeah, for sure. I mean,
definitely see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I broke it down into like you can work out an individual cost per raw wood based off what it is at the marketplace, and you can get a base cost for what you would be buying it for off the marketplace. Then you can divide how many class berries and unum and plain berries and get an overall cost that it's going to cost to make it. And for those earlier ones in the workshop, just the fact that you've got to burn the class berries as well to get that energy, because energy is obviously a cost as well, just didn't make it financially viable. So I think initially And initially there wasn't the Unum and RBW, the Unum or plain berry cost with it, was there? But there was still the energy cost, and I think that was still more than it would be to just buy it off the market. But obviously the game was a bit earlier then, and you probably had raw wood and stuff stocked up from the initial liquidity pools of them.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is the one of the things that surprised us was the amount of raw wood that was sunk to roll farm bonuses. I mean, we figured that people would re-roll, but we did not expect the level of, and I mean this with utmost respect as a fellow degen, but the level of degeneracy that occurred, especially in the early days of just the number of destroyed farm plots as people would kind of, re-roll, try to get the optimal bonus, and then, obviously level up from there. And so that was actually kind of surprising to us. But one of the interesting things generally is that, after the tightening that occurred, I guess about 5 weeks ago, that was the mid-June tuning push. Like we've seen overall balances of all of our soft currency items reduced pretty drastically across the board, obviously taking on average from the player base. And so that was a good setup, just kind of getting things tightened down. And then I think, again, really refocusing or retuning things such that every building has more specificity, right? And like these specific use cases, I guess is what I mean, is I think going to be very helpful on that front. And then in the future, having a wider set of items and things is going to really matter. And of course, with the next update, Tom, you're going to see the Keystones and the workshop obviously being the only place that you're going to get a keystone outside of maybe, ranking at the very top of some of the leaderboards, right? And that's going to really incentivize the workshop side of things, especially people looking to get mythics and rare plots of land, which we expect most of the early keystone competition to kind of be around. And as you can imagine, to craft a mythic keystone, you probably have to level up that workshop very significantly. So a little bit of alpha there for anyone looking to to get in on the mythic land rush.
I guess one of the things that would also be cool is if there's not really anywhere you can grind in the game yet. Not that you want to encourage grinding, but if someone wanted to sit there and say, just keep crafting, there's no, and you wouldn't need to do it with all the items, but if a base level item could be, clicked every 10 minutes or something, and you were able to keep doing that, then you would have something that you could keep yourself busy to try and get yourself a little bit further ahead. I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah, that's the trade-off there is like how much do we lean into, advantaging people that just have unlimited time, right? Versus those that can only check in a couple of times per day. So that's always the concern with putting in the passive grind stuff. I mean, I've looked at like Sunflower Land because it's another, farm sim on Polygon. I think it's kind of interesting the way they've done it. But to me, the kind of need to sit there, depending on what you're planting and harvesting, felt a little off. But I tend to be a gamer in this type of game that wants to do like my 3 or 4 check-ins every day, right? But again, there will be more stuff to do, actively, especially post the release of things like tribes and obviously the battle loops themselves and some of the stuff we'll be announcing in August.
Cool. Thanks so much. Thanks for answering the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much, Tom. We appreciate your time. By the way, Unicorn fam, help us get on Zapper. Check the pinned tweet on our official Crypto Unicorns Twitter and follow the instructions to boost Crypto Unicorns to the top. Horns together strong, Unifam. Okay, let's have another written question, Viddy.
Sure, it's from Shikam. Would there be any Unim Burn events after the Season of Love?
Not beyond stuff that's already in the game itself, right? I mean, the Shadowcorn eggs, with the launch of Shadowcorn staking, which is likely, I think it's a September target based on the current progress on that front. We absolutely anticipate, like the Dark Forest did, that will get the remaining set of Shadowcorn eggs hatched and deployed into that mini game. especially given the rewards and like need for shadow corn owners to collect some of the new and unique things that they will have access to that will help them in the war against the unicorns for Act 2 of the Dark Forest. The staking event is very much like this tee up into Act 2 of the Dark Forest. That's going to take another really significant chunk of UNM out of supply and take us from about 100 million to 80 or so. I guess even a little bit more than that. And then again, it doesn't take too much more like growth in terms of new unicorns. You look at Keystones and the fact that Keystones is going to be another Unim sink. And projection wise, I think we're going to be in a really, really good spot on the Unim front. So I don't think we're going to need any additional burn beyond what's planned.
All right, that's great to know. Next up, we have Sigarian. Come on over, Sigarian.
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, Aaron, just got a quick question about the next coming update.
Yeah.
So I know the last one had some cool fixes for us. I was wondering what was going to be up in the next one.
Well, you asked for it. Let me just give you the rundown straight from a report Katrina, our product director, sent to me last night late. Yeah, so the major things is obviously going to be the release of the new part set, which is going to take us right to I think it's the end of us needing to ever add art assets to the corn template. So you'll have new parts available across all of the corn classes. I believe there's a new mythic part set on a few of them that's pretty epic and very cool. That's also going to unblock us from setting up and releasing the APIs so that gene data and information is way more accessible to players. I know there's a number of people that are going to be building tools for the community on top of that will give you a much better idea of how to breed the appropriate bloodlines based on whatever system you're looking to be really competitive in. So that's kind of a major thing on that front. We're also going to be updating the blockchain transaction flow. So being a lot more, we've simplified it in a few places where we didn't need an extra click. It also tracks the blockchain. So you will see it count down the number of blocks. And then it tells you, okay, we're done with that. Now we're waiting on the server to process this event now that it's been confirmed on chain, 60 confirmations, all that stuff. So improving the messaging on that front, we're improving the retry logic, and we've been able, through the fixing of all these issues over the last month, to identify bug fixes in the process, like, oh, this is an edge case where the retry state didn't work correctly. There's updates on the EVM listener, which is a part of our underlying infrastructure as a service platform. There's also updates to Watcher itself on our side, which is our server, looking to get an event from the EVM listener, which is watching the chain. So there's been improvements across both of those. This is kind of, like I've mentioned before, the first phase of releases on that front. The second phase is going to make it so that you can kick off multiple breeds and evolves across multiple nurseries. Even if, God forbid, one gets stuck under this new flow, you're not being blocked. So we are, again, in the process. This is the first phase of really setting up, I think, what'll be the final set of improvements to make the process that we have as smooth as possible. Then, of course, you're getting loot boxes, you're getting land vending machine, and I mentioned the public APIs, which will be great. So that's kind of the summary of all the high level fixes, kind of ignoring a lot of the underlying tech debt that's been fixed and stuff. Any follow-ons to that, Sigarian?
Not really, but that sounds really good. Like, I'm really looking forward to what those updates are going to be. But I do have a second question. It's concerning the leaderboard. Right now, it's kind of, from my position on the board, it's getting kind of really close, and I guess I can see the competition because I'm like tracking who's below me or above me, and it's pretty close right now. I'm just wondering if maybe you have any hints as to what the next leaderboard's gonna be.
Um, hmm. Not that I can reveal here, sir. Not that I can reveal here, sir. I think there is going to be a little bit of a lull period as we prep for the next set on that front. But yeah, you can't pull that alpha out of me today, sir.
All right, well, that's all for me. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you so much, Sigarian. You give it a fair shot. The community thanks you. By the way, make sure to take a look at the current draft proposals that we have on the forum right now at forum.cryptounicorns.com. We've been in communication with two authors since a few weeks regarding some important proposals. So first we have the native marketplace proposal by Sono Lumen, CEO of Merkle Fruit. Next up, we have the RMP Analytics Dashboard Report and Podcast proposal by JRB. Head over to Governance News under Governance to find links to the native marketplace draft proposal by Sono Lumen, CEO of Merkle Fruit. You can compare it to the Crypto Unicorns Market Product Requirements Document or PRD by clicking on the link there. Share your thoughts about the market on forum.cryptounicorns.com under the draft proposal thread. They also have a poll going on right now regarding the native marketplace draft proposal. What kind of design do you want the marketplace to have, Unifam? Would you like your market fully custodial or joint custodial? If you're not sure about what that means, you can check out the conversation by clicking on the link under the Governance News channel and share us your 2 cents. Next up, let's have another written question, Woody.
I have two questions from Kaiser. The first one is, what are your thoughts about adding a QR code login option for the game? Users can play but cannot do blockchain transactions.
Is that question related to NFT delegation? The challenge there is, okay, but we're kind of back in the state where, a scholar is going to have to trust that the person that's, delegated their stuff to them is actually going to make the payments. And a big part of what we're trying to work through with like re-NFT and Stash, which is another group that's building, both lending and kind of like white label guild marketplaces that anyone can set up, is obviously being able to ensure the kind of trustless split of what's being collected. Obviously, in terms of Unim and RBW, the ERC20 tokens ultimately. And so the QR code thing is interesting. I do question if it really solves the problem on that front without kind of creating some of the hassle and the hassle, I guess is the right word for it, that was with, how you handled scholars and Axie and stuff, even with batch payments and things, right? So I think most of our discussions are around trying to solve that in a way where, you can lend out these assets, and then obviously see payments being split and things like that in a way that is as trustless as possible is kind of our goal on that front.
All right, thank you so much. Next up, we have AM with a question. Can we expect any new feature update before the end of this month? Before the end of this quarter? Yeah, that's I'm not
Definitely
sure if you can
before the
answer
end of
that.
this quarter. Now I'm like, how much time is left in this month? I mean, I was told yesterday that we're getting very close and, still looking for a all green, all systems go QA report. And at that point, we'll be ready to launch this new release imminently. So if I was willing to bet, I would say next week pretty likely, following week pretty definitely, based on the current QA report and what I'm hearing from the team. So the next release is certainly very close. The following release is Quests, which is also targeted before the end of this quarter. And Jousting, of course, will be the next major release after. And that's likely in the very beginning of Q4, if I was betting right now. And then obviously some other stuff will get added to the roadmap that will get revealed post the roadshow deck.
All right, that sounds amazing. Okay, so just this once, Unicorn Fam, you get dates. Don't get too used to it. All right, so we've been teasing the town hall on Twitter for quite a bit now, and we have Manic Music who is a little curious. What is in there?
We're talking about the roadshow?
We're talking about the town hall building.
Oh. That I don't think is actually the town hall building, and I'll leave it at that.
Ooh. I'm pretty sure the community has a couple guesses, but we're not gonna tell you if you're right.
I am pretty excited. I mean, the design team has a very cool idea around, and this kind of ties into, I guess, Sigarian's comment around, or question around, leaderboards and stuff. And we do have this idea that I want to see come to fruition, which is around allowing the community itself to kind of grind towards the release of our first jousting arena and potentially have some let's call it ownership over that asset within the ecosystem and the rake, and we have this idea that will allow, again, players in game to kind of grind towards the thing that they want and creating additional depth via new items and stuff. And so there's some interesting thoughts that the design team has on that front that I think would be a really cool preparatory event in the lead up to the launch of that arena that ultimately has a very very cool kind of Web3 forward approach to allowing kind of the let's just say the ownership of other assets outside of the ones people currently have. I think that's a great direction for the overall space to continue to kind of head, and so I'm very, very hopeful that we can kind of pull that off in the lead up into jousting. I think it'll just be kind of a fun event, and it again lets the community kind of collectively, let's just say, craft or build the thing that they ultimately kind of want to see, and would have kind of a competitive leaderboard associated with it. So
Ooh, interesting. So Rubik thinks it's the Unicorn Sacrifice Temple. I don't give the Shadowcorns any ideas. Not like this. We have Kaiser coming up to ask the question. Hey, Special K, what's up?
Hey, good evening, Aaron. Actually, I just need to ask a question about what Rubik was asking in the AMA. It was about the infos on the public APIs cover, and can we get a Discord channel as well for that if we ever, have the APIs?
yeah, you mean just kind of a channel for people to talk shop about that stuff specifically? I mean, ultimately, Sparkly and you're going to have to consult some of the other unicorns with authority in this realm. My authority doesn't extend into our Discord, but no, I mean, I think having kind of a very defined focus channel on that front would be great. And the plan is to, again, release the ABIs to the public following this next release. And so the timing on that, I think, is really, really great. And we want people to have access to that data. And so the people very interested in the breeding metagame can begin to really formulate a strategy where, to a certain extent, today you've been somewhat in the dark, and we totally understand that. And this will definitely improve that.
Okay. Thank you. I have one last question. because right now, of course, Jousting is not yet released, but in the future, do you think Jousting will have also some like extra equipments or runes?
I heard something that sounded a lot like potions that get crafted, that get consumed in the jousting loop, and I thought that was pretty sweet from the design team. So I would say we are thinking very similarly to that, and there will be this slight additional kind of meta system that will launch with jousting that's going to add more depth to crafting, because you'll now have this consumable that you can craft, and it obviously gets consumed over the course of the jousting tournament. We're also setting and allowing the player to, I don't want to step on the design team's thunder, but there's going to be a certain thing you can set at the beginning of a jousting event that, again, is just a little bit of a added piece of depth to the overall choices beyond just, hey, is my corn going to potentially be good in this, event that's coming up in the queue, right? So trying to just layer in additional depth, and where we do that, increase effectively a sink in the economy, right? I think is the right way to do that, and it's definitely lining up with what the design team has planned.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate it. Ooh.
Oh, woo!
Ooh, right
Oh,
back.
Shadow corn as well, sir. Well done. Is that a mythic? Impressive.
It is a mythic.
Impressive.
Some people are just lucky.
Very.
I wanted a vault too. Alrighty. Thank you so much, Special K. We appreciate your time. We have another written question, Witty.
Yeah, it's from Chicken Pork Adobo. Can we have a special alpha regarding the use case of golden tickets? Is the quote flash sale, unquote store in the works already, or is it pushed back to cater on the current issues as well as to bolster marketing efforts for the August roadshow?
Yeah, the Golden Ticket Marketplace is going to come up kind of as a surprise release. I can't right now say whether or not it will happen before Jousting or not. Golden Tickets, though, are not going to be something that gets stashed into the game. The Marketplace is going to be an app that appears on a certain, well, not kind of on a random cadence. So people will have to check, and those who are checking more, or a little bit more active in Discord, are going to get tipped off. And the idea is kind of like the Zur market from Destiny, right? Or, there's a billion different versions of this across many, many games. But the idea is this mysterious merchant, yet to be revealed, shows up, and you have access to the wares in his store, or I should say their store, such that if you happen to have, in particular, multiple golden tickets, you can get these really sweet, incredible kind of deals. And the idea there is that you kind of swap a ticket for this bundle, and the bundle you take into the game, and obviously get those assets 1-to-1. So it's meant to be much more of kind of like this reoccurring event that has a different set of items and things in these bundles every single time, and people will begin to understand, oh, if I have 3 golden tickets going into the next event, whenever that happens, I'm going to have access to this better higher tier system, and so higher tier bundle, right? If I have 5 golden tickets, I may have access to a even larger bundle. And so I think it'll end up being kind of a fun, ongoing, reoccurring event, and we can kind of look at where there's potentially a limited supply of certain commodities, consumables within the game, and obviously structure the design of what the next set of bundles is to try and best match that in a way that I think is going to be really, really sweet. So that's the Golden Marketplace, TLDR.
So Terrarex says, basically, the Golden Ticket Marketplace is a Narcos market for unicorns. Yeah, we give you that good. Let's have another written question, Witty.
Okay, this is from GD Verse. Lots of shadow corn eggs are unhatched yet. Is there a plan to push owners to hatch eggs? Shadow corn staking still on track?
Yes, so shadow corn staking is still on track. Obviously, a lot of there's contract work and then website work on the on that front, and I would bet it's probably a September release with reasonable certainty on that front based on progress. It's my expectation, just like with the Dark Forest, that that becomes a forcing function for shadow corn owners to hatch those eggs. If they don't, they're going to miss out on all of the let's just call it loot that prepares them to defend the forest against unicorns come Act 2. Which is going to be a very interesting dynamic because there's going to be a significant number of corns that will need to get deployed to the front lines if the unicorn, Team Unicorn, hopes to be successful given the power of the shadow corns. But again, the shadow corn holders, in order to be properly prepared, I would say, are going to need to participate in the staking event. And so that, I think, is the feature that is on the horizon that will act as that incentive that's going to burn another pretty significant chunk of Unim out of the supply, roughly 20% of what remains, I think. And set us up nicely in the lead up to Act 2 of the Dark Forest, which I'm beginning to call War for the Dark Forest.
The War for the Dark Forest. That sounds ominous. So
I
people
kind of
would
made it up. Was that okay?
No, man, I love it.
I need
That was
another cup of
great.
coffee here.
This coffee thought. Let's have another written question. Ready?
Okay, this is from Viona. When would higher level items or boosters would be accessible on the RMP?
Yeah, so the desire there is to see enough of those boosters being crafted that there is like player liquidity to begin trading inside of that economy versus us just creating a pool that allows people to just buy from the pool. We would much rather create a thinner liquidity pool that players sell into so that the items being traded were actually produced in the economy versus just incepted out of thin air and deployed via liquidity pool on that front. So we want to see enough supply in the hands of players that there can be like active trading against that. And thus far, we haven't hit that level yet. I don't think it takes too much longer, though, especially post the next set of tuning changes that are really going to force people into the workshop to produce those materials and things of that nature. But yeah, it's very much a factor of us just not wanting to create some massively liquid pool out of thin air. I'd rather start with thinner liquidity and scale it as players actively craft those items themselves so that there's like a real tradable market on that front.
All right. We have another question by GDverse, a follow-up question. Can he clarify what he means by parts for next release? Is it actual unicorn parts or parts that will help the current game to be smooth?
Actual unicorn parts in this case. The smoothness factor of the game is really tied to this underlying, what we're calling building refactor, changes how we engineered buildings to better interface with our underlying infrastructure as a service backend. And so once that is complete, I don't think that is making it in with the next feature release, but it is something that's important enough that we'll do a point release around. That will eliminate any of the chunkiness that you get in the experience where you're seeing loading or like a menu takes a little bit longer to pop. And so planting is particularly egregious, especially if you're doing a lot of actions. That was a issue in how we originally architected that system. And at the end of the day, that was plain and simple, just moving too quickly. And so that refactor, of which a portion is already in QA on, is going to solve the issue that is leading to lag in the experience.
That is great to hear. And just like that, an entire hour went by. We're going to end this with a funny suggestion from Rubik. Let's have an in-game competition. If we burn a certain amount of unim, Aaron has to do the AMA without coffee. How do you feel about that?
I think that would be a disaster. But I'm always down to try new things. So, we'll set a goal.
He's taking it seriously, boys. Let's do it. It looks like they think no coffee equals more alpha. We'll see. That concludes our post-launch AMA number 10. We will see you next week for post-launch AMA number 11. We will post a recording of this AMA on our socials if you would like to give it a re-listen. If you have more burning questions, feel free to reach out on our support channels, the Mod Support channel and Ask the Devs channel. Don't go away. We'll be right back after 1 hour to have that AMA, that draft proposal AMA with Sona Lumen, CEO of Merkleroot, regarding the draft proposal on the market. This has been Sparkly Unicorn with your co-host, Witty Unicorn.
Ooh.
Good morning, good night, and see you in game, Unicorn fam. Ooh boo.
Oh, woo. Bye all.
Bye. Have fun. Just like I said, please come back after 1 hour for that AMA with Sona Lumen, CEO of Merkleroot. You can also take a look at forum.cryptounicorns.fun and catch up on the updates that we've had on the thread for the draft proposal for the market so that you can ask more constructive questions at the AMA. See you in an hour, Unicorn fam.